Hello and welcome to Who's the Bossk? It's a Star Wars podcast from laughingplace.com. My name is Mike Celestino. I am your host. I am the lead Southern California reporter and editorial director for Star Wars content at Laughing Place. This is episode number 188 of Who's the Bossk, and we will be discussing the latest episode and also the penultimate episode of the animated series Star Wars The Bad Batch, which was released on Disney Plus this week. And for that conversation, I have invited on the show for the very first time fellow podcasters who I have just met face to face across this streaming platform for the very first time. They are the hosts of Distant Echoes. It's also a Star Wars podcast. We're going to be talking about that, what that's all about in just a minute. And their names are Cassie and Tommy. Both of you, thank you so much for taking some time out of your week to come and chat with me about Star Wars. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
We're so excited to be here.
I'm so glad to hear that. Always love having enthusiastic guests who are happy to talk some Star Wars with me. By the way, we are recording this live via the Laughing Place YouTube channel. If you happen to be watching this live, please comment along or ask any questions you may have. We'll be happy to address those. Full disclosure here on my end, we were talking about this before we started recording. I'm coming off of a 2-day media event that was like nonstop at Disneyland for the Pixar Fest 2024, and I'm also at the tail end of getting over a really nasty cold that I had over the last weekend. So I am running on fumes here, but I promise that will only make things more interesting and fun. But let's talk about you. So Distant Echoes, tell me what's Distant Echoes all about for those who may not know it? How did that get started? And what would people expect from an average episode if they were to tune in to your show?
Yeah. Do you want to go, Cass? You want me to go?
You go.
Oh, okay. So Cass and I are partners. We have been together for quite some time.
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. And we have been Star Wars enthusiasts for most of our life, and also the amount of time that we've been together. Really, one of the first movies we saw in theaters, I think we talked about, was Revenge of the Sith, right? So we saw that together, and so our whole world has been very Star Wars centric for a long time, and we just got the idea, like a lot of people did over the pandemic, that we were watching through the entirety of the Clone Wars, and we just thought, you know what? We're watching this. We have some good friends of ours who host a podcast on Spider-Man. Why don't we give this a shot? So that's really the story. What can people expect from a normal episode, Cass?
I'm being very good right now. There is some cursing, mostly from me, just because I'm bad about that. And it's usually not relevant to whatever is happening in the Star Wars universe, but we mostly stay on topic.
Yeah.
We did originally decide that it was going to be Clone Wars, and I think we got into like 2 episodes, and then all of this other Star Wars stuff came out, and so we're like, we have to watch all of this now
no,
too.
we gotta watch this. Yeah.
So eventually we'll get back to Clone
all.
Wars. Yes, exactly.
It can be very tough to keep up with everything, especially lately. I feel like it's just been a nonstop deluge. Whenever I get a little bit of a break, I'm just happy to take a breath and then, dive headfirst back into the Star Wars world.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
And I will say, we have one of the conceits when we started was that we're not experts. I mean, we have a love for Star Wars, but like, we're not the type of people who can keep every single detail memorized. So our whole thing is we will get stuff wrong a lot.
Okay.
And I think we've stuck to that.
I'm always in favor of honesty. I've said this many times as well. I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan, but I don't consider myself an expert. I know people who are, I would consider experts, like Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained. He's like a Star Wars encyclopedia, so there are a lot of things that I don't know, especially from like Legends. I only read like probably a third of all the Legends books that ever came out. So it can be tough to keep up with Star Wars. There's just a huge volume of content out there. But like you said, we both, we're all doing our best, and we can all admit to the gaps in our knowledge, and we're always filling in those gaps, I think, as well. But we have something here on the show called the 5 Star Wars questions, and this is kind of a great segue because this will give us a better understanding of your Star Wars fandom. Are you guys ready for these?
We're so pumped. We're so excited.
We've been thinking about these for so long.
All right, so let's start off here with number 1, which is, what is your earliest Star Wars memory? And we'll start with you, Cassie.
Okay, so, well, I'm actually wearing an X-Files shirt right now, which is poignant because my dad would watch X-Files and Star Trek with me growing up, so I didn't watch a lot of Star Wars growing up. So really, my earliest memory with Star Wars was the Phantom Menace, the prequel trilogy. Getting all the weird McDonald's toys and souvenirs, like when all of that merch was coming out, I just thought it was so cool and weird. And I thought, Padme was beautiful and just wild looking. And I think that just started my fascination with it. And then I went into a huge deep dive during high school when I met Tommy. So it's probably one of my earliest memories, to be honest.
Amazing. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm a huge X-Files fan too. That was my favorite TV show as a teenager. I was 13 when it started. I watched it from the very, very beginning. I was an early adopter of the X-Files, and I followed all the way through till the reboot and everything. But yeah, boy, I could go on and on and on for hours about that too. But we got to continue on Star Wars. So let's go to you, Tommy. What is your earliest Star Wars memory?
So I don't know if it's my earliest, but I have this really fun. I'm going to take you on a journey. So when my grandmother would come to visit, she lived in the northern part of the state and would come down and just stay the summer with me and my brother. She would always bring a bunch of VHS tapes, right? And in there were movies like the original Arthur, which is like a comedy, which I just associate with her. Throw Mama from the Train, and then which she just had such a awesome taste in movies because she brought those, and then she also brought the original Star Wars trilogy. And so my whole thought process, originally when she would bring those down, was these are just like grandma movies. Like these are movies that like grandmas watch. Like that's what, I didn't connect the dots that these are really poignant sci-fi tales or anything. It was just oh, this is a movie that grandma brings. This is just a movie that adults and grandmas really like. But obviously my thoughts have changed and my tastes have sophisticated a lot, and I learned that they are for grandmas. They're for everyone.
Star Wars is for grandmas.
Star Wars is
grandmas
for grandmas
only.
Yeah. Right? So
that's great. Yeah, the more I ask these questions, the more it kind of rings true that so many people discover Star Wars through family members who kind of expose them to it. And I always love hearing those kinds of stories. So,
yeah,
I had similar experiences growing up. Let's get to number 2 here. Which is your current favorite Star Wars movie? Or you can choose a TV show if you want, since there are so many of those nowadays. What's your current favorite Star Wars movie or TV show, and why? This time, let's start with Tommy.
Yeah. Okay. It's not really a cop-out because you said we can do TV show too, but in my mind, the last 3 episodes, the finale of the Clone Wars, I have said that is my favorite. If you put all of those together and did a theatrical release, that would be my favorite Star Wars film. I just think that the finale of that show is so gorgeous, and it's really touching and emotional, and every time I watch it, I feel the same way I did the first time, and it was just devastated, but also I don't know, there's this weird hopefulness at the end of it when Darth Vader picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber, there's just this, I don't know, there's this weird touching piece to it that
Spoilers,
it's just
Tommy.
beautiful. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so
It's been out
sorry.
for several years now. You're okay.
But yeah, that's I've maintained that is my favorite. Just that 3-episode chunk, and I
Yeah.
love the Clone Wars as well as a whole. But I think if again, I would love if they did, whenever it's the an anniversary for that or something, if they were to do a theatrical release, I think that would just be so good.
Well, I know they showed those episodes at Star Wars Celebration. What was it, 2019? No, 2022 maybe. Here in Anaheim. Yeah, it would have been 2022. Did you guys get to be there for that?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay, yeah. So
We're
that would
trying
have
to
been
go
like
this year or the
we're gonna
2025.
try to go to Japan. Yeah, maybe I'll see you there. That would be awesome. But
Mm.
yeah, I think that would have been your one opportunity to get like that um communal viewing of the finale of the Clone Wars so far. But yeah, hopefully, like you said, they'll do some kind of theatrical run. That would be really cool.
That'd
All
be
right,
so
let's
cool.
ask Cassie the same question here. It's favorite Star Wars movie or TV series and why?
So I thought long and hard about this, and I probably say this on every other episode now recently that
Uh,
I love Bad Batch, man. I
okay.
love Bad Batch. Like I loved them when I first saw them in Clone Wars,
Uh-huh.
and I thought I was gonna not like Omega because I always joke that I always end up hating all the kids, just probably because I'm like, I don't know, I'm like, oh, annoying children. I love her, adore her, love
Nice.
the Bad Batch. So right now, I could very easily say Bad Batch.
Wow, so you're a perfect guest to have on to talk about the Bad Batch, as we are going to do. As a reminder, later on in
Mm.
this episode, we will be talking about the penultimate episode of the Bad Batch. Looking forward to that. Let's see, number 3, the 5 Star Wars questions. Who is your favorite Star Wars character and why? Cassie.
I'm just gonna keep it going. Right now, it's
Okay.
Omega. It
Omega.
is. It is.
Okay.
I adore her. I think she's so clever. She's so like she's her own person, and yet obviously she's a clone, but like she truly
Yeah.
sees these guys as her brothers, and they learn so much from her. They learn just as much from her, if not more, than she has learned from them. And oh, she's just so clever and smart and amazing. And I just love how she brings out the personality and flavor of every single guy in this
Yeah.
show. So I adore her. She's my fave right now, for sure.
All right. So let me ask you one question. We'll get more into Omega and company
Mm-hmm.
later, but do you think we will see Omega use the Force in the series finale? We've got one episode left. So there was this debate, same debate kind of over Sabine in Ahsoka. Is she going to use the Force by the end of the show? And, spoiler alert, she did. Do you think the same thing will happen with Omega, or is she not going to demonstrate Force ability, as it's been sort of hinted that she might have access to the Force? Who knows? What do you think?
Absolutely. I do think she will.
Okay.
And it's actually specifically because of something that happens in this episode. And
Okay.
I can hold off on that if you
All
want
right.
when we get to it. But there's something that really I actually thought originally, if we pull back a few episodes where she's like pseudo training with Asajj,
Yeah.
I thought that maybe, and then we find out that, Crosshair misses the tracker to find Tantus. I thought that she was gonna like reach out to him using the Force, because both of them
Yeah.
had been meditating in that one
Mhm.
episode, and I was like, oh, we've seen so many Force users reach out to someone across
Mm.
galaxies, like Sabine and Ahsoka, and so I was thinking maybe we'd get something like that, and that's how they'd find Tantus. Of
Yeah.
course, we know they find it through Rampart, which isn't
Right.
as delightful maybe as it could have been, not as
Yeah.
whimsical, but there's something specific in this episode I'll talk about later
Okay.
that I think says she will.
All right. All right. Same question to Tommy. Favorite character and why?
Oh, it's so tough. I went back and forth on this one because I have always maintained that I think Ahsoka remains my favorite Star Wars character, but I've like gotten so much more of a softer spot for Kanan Jarrus over the past couple of years. We actually recently cosplayed for the first time, and Cass cosplayed as Hera, and I cosplayed as Kanan, and so I almost want to say Kanan at this point, even though I still have a huge adoration for Ahsoka. So honestly, they're 1A and 1B, I think, at this point for me.
Very cool. Yeah, I saw your cosplay photo somewhere. I think it must have been on your Instagram, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, you guys did a great, wonderful job there. Wonderful choice. I don't think anyone has chosen Kanan before, so I love to hear that. I'm a Rebels fan.
Yeah.
All right, number 4. If you happen to live in the fictional Star Wars universe, where do you think you would fit in? What faction would you belong to? And the examples that I always list are the Jedi Order, the Sith, the Rebel Alliance, the Empire, the Bounty Hunters, or the scum and villainy hanging out in the cantina, or anything else you might be able to come up with. And let's start with Tommy this time.
Oh no, I forgot.
I'm so excited because I have no idea what he's going to say.
Okay.
I honestly, this one was so tough to think about. I mean, if I'm being honest, I think it would be. I don't think I would necessarily be a Jedi, but I think it would probably be the Jedi Order, but also probably a little bit with the scum and villainy.
Okay.
If I'm being quite honest, maybe like, I would be in the Jedi Order, but going out every now and again to visit my pals in the scum and villainy district.
All right. Yeah.
The district.
Yeah, the district. They have a whole district. They have to.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, it's those lower levels of
lower
Coruscant. Yeah. That's where the scum and villainy hangs out in the heart of the galaxy. What about you, Cassie?
So I see myself. I also see myself in the Jedi Order in some way, but maybe not directly in it. And I have a master's in library science, so
Okay.
which I haven't gotten to utilize yet in my career. So I would like to utilize that as a librarian in the Jedi
Okay.
archives. I would
And what's
love that.
the Jedi librarian? Jocasta Nu, is that her name?
Mhm,
Yeah. So you would
mhm.
be kind of like her.
Yes, exactly. I would work probably underneath her because
Y'all would
she's.
be best friends.
Oh my god, we'd be BFFs.
Yeah.
Playing all the games,
100%.
playing sabacc, like, when people aren't there and, like, betting on
Yeah.
Jedi, what they're gonna do and stuff.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, I feel like that's a good place because you want access to all that information that the Jedi Order has, right? So it's
Yes.
probably a lot of cool secrets hidden in that library. So
Has to be.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that's a
I'd
great
be
choice.
snooping all the forbidden stuff, I'd try to find
I
it.
love it. Yeah. All right. The 5th and final of the 5 Star Wars questions is called Impression or Possession. And this one you have a choice. You can either do a Star Wars impression or simply tell me about a favorite Star Wars possession you may own. Cassie, which one do you want to do?
I'm gonna do impression, and
Oh,
I'm
please
going.
do. Yes.
Yes, and hopefully you can hear it, and hopefully I don't
Okay.
blow out anyone's eardrums, so I'm gonna move away from the mic, but
Okay.
I'm gonna do R2 scream.
Oh, nice. I like this one. Longtime listeners of the show will recall when I answered the 5 Star Wars questions, that was also the impression that I did. R2D2 screaming. And I think
Heck
you
yes.
may have topped me on that one, but I love it. That's a great one.
I'd make you do it, but I know you're not feeling well, so I don't
No,
want
it
you to
would
burn
not.
all your
It would
energy.
not sound right. My throat is not in a place for me to do it right now. But go back, find the
Yeah.
episode in season 1 where I did the 5 Star Wars, the first round of 5 Star Wars questions. You can hear me do the same.
Oh, I
Okay,
will.
Tommy, which would you like to choose there?
I'm gonna do possession, and originally I was gonna do Kermit the Frog as Emperor Palpatine because of the meme where it's like the two Kermits, but I don't trust myself enough to
Right.
do it.
He was
But
so cute though, walking around. He was walking around the house
was
recording
practicing.
himself.
I was practicing like all day. I'll do 2 possessions, and they're very unique.
Okay.
So the first one is the mask that I wore as Kanan, that was handmade by
Oh,
Cass. So it was I love this. I have this just like I actually had to pry it off the seat of my car because I have it as like on the back of my passenger seat, just kind of like hanging out.
right.
But because I like it so much. So this is Kanan's mask, and then the other one is also
Well,
made by Cass.
can I
Oh,
stop you
sorry.
for a
Yeah.
second and ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I forgot that you were doing like blind Kanan from the
Yeah.
back half of the Rebels show, and
Hmm.
I have to ask, can you see through that?
You cannot.
Okay.
It is completely opaque.
Yeah, I didn't think
Is
about that.
But it's okay. I was able to, just kind of like hold it up here a lot of times and then just pull it down for pictures. So it worked
Okay,
out
so
well.
you weren't you didn't have to use the Force to make your way around.
There were a couple of times when we saw some photographers and I was like, I'm just gonna pull this down and just kind of hope
Right.
for the best. And we were walking, with our friend Derek, and Cass helped me along too. So it's fun. It
Yeah,
was fun.
your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. So
Exactly.
yeah. All right.
Um,
What was the second one you
yeah.
wanted to?
The second one is also made by Cass. This is a giant
Oh,
Tula from the Bad Batch. So
yeah.
it's crocheted. It is massive.
Oh, look at
Um,
yours,
yeah.
little baby.
yeah.
See mine there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember Cass started making this and was like, this is going to be way bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's massive. It's, you know what though? It's hunter size. I think this
There
is,
you
or not
go.
hunter,
Oh,
record
yeah.
size. Record
Record.
size. Yeah. So
Yeah, when Omega adopted the smaller one, he should have gotten a larger size version for himself.
100%.
He needs one big enough for him to cuddle with, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody needs their own Tuca cat plush doll to carry around for comfort. Okay, that is the end of the 5 Star Wars questions for this week, and that's going to bring us to Star Wars headlines. So I have to admit, when I told you guys before we started recording, I literally just got home from Disneyland and this media event. I was going to do some research about these, but I did not have any time. So I may rely on you for a couple of these. Hopefully you've seen this clip. Did you watch this clip from Tales of the Empire that's out there?
You know what? It's so
Okay.
funny. I saw the clip that was going around, and my thought process was, so we're actually, this is too much behind the scenes stuff, but we're going to take a break in the month of May.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't need to necessarily know about this right now. I'm just going to wait. So I'm just going to let that kind of simmer. So I actually haven't seen the clip either.
Okay. That's kind of how I feel too. I mean, this is coming out. We're talking about Star Wars Tales of the Empire. It's a series of shorts. It's a follow-up to Tales of the Jedi, which came out a couple years ago now. I'm really excited for this. It's divided between 2 characters. One is remind me of Morgan Elsbeth from The
And
Mandalorian.
Barriss.
She's like, yes, Barriss Offee.
Yes.
Thank you. 2 characters that we've always wanted to, I mean, Morgan Elsbeth is relatively new, obviously, but we want to know more about their history. We're going to get it through this Tales of the Empire show. And they did release a clip. Some StarWars.com, I think, put this up, or it's on the Star Wars YouTube channel. You can go and watch it. But now that I haven't seen it in time to talk about it, I don't think I'm going to watch it either. I'm going to leave it and be surprised when the show comes out on May the 4th, which, by the way, I don't know what you guys have planned for May the 4th, but mine is just jam-packed, overstuffed. Did you have stuff going on?
We do. So we're actually going to be seeing episode 1 in theaters. So for the 25th anniversary. So we actually just bought our tickets. Well, there's a whole group of us going. So we're gonna be there in the theaters watching that. And then I think we'll have a special episode drop as well on May the 4th, which is Star Wars related, but not Star Wars, which is fun. So it's I don't know if I can tease it out yet because it's a partnership with another podcast, but it's 100% Star Wars related, but just not Star Wars, which is fun.
That's another really bizarre coincidence because I also will have a new episode on May the 4th. May the 4th.
May the Force, yeah.
And it will also be like tangentially Star Wars related. But yeah, you can look out for that. And then I think I'll probably be seeing Phantom Menace the night before. at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. And then May the 4th, I've got a trivia contest in the morning. It's free comic book day also that day. And there are 2 Star Wars comics coming out for free comic book day. And then I'll be driving down to Disneyland again for their celebration there. So yeah, it's just jam packed. Looking forward to all that. And of course, we've got Tales of the Empire coming out. So just way too much going on this year from May the 4th coming up just about a week from now. Let's see. Speaking of the Phantom Menace returning to theaters, there's a new trailer that was released on the official Star Wars social media channel. So if you go to the Star Wars Twitter or X, you go to the Instagram feed, you can watch this trailer, and it's footage from the movie intercut with kind of behind the scenes footage of George Lucas. There's some interviews with Ewan McGregor, interview with John Williams talking about the music. Really, really well put together. Got me excited to revisit this film when it's released. Have you guys watched this trailer by any chance?
I have not, but I'm going to have to consume all of this right after this.
One of the things we talked about this on a recent episode, and there's some really fun. Sorry, my cat just decided it's time for pets. Gracie's watched it. Gracie has watched all of the trailers.
All of it.
So in a recent episode, we covered the animated Clone Wars series, and there was some behind the scenes stuff that was, it may have been in the like one of the film releases as well, but it was attached to like a DVD that came with like a lightsaber. I can't remember exactly what the release was, but anyway, there were some interviews with Ewan and the cast and crew, and he was just so funny. Like there was like all these like really
everyone was being so serious,
and you would just like
do it.
Go ahead.
He was just, everybody was so serious, and he just goes, I like my lightsaber. It's pretty cool. I got a lightsaber. We were like, all right, that's great. Good for you, guy.
Yeah, so I love the behind the scenes stuff for those the prequel movies. So I'm excited to see that.
Cool. Yeah, you can find that on like I said, the Star Wars social media channels. Real quickly, I keep forgetting to address the comments we've been getting. Do you guys know somebody named David Arnold?
We do. Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Commenting along. He told me to feel better soon. Thank you for saying that, David. And then he wanted to say, despite these answers, I know the DE crew's hearts belong to Asajj Ventress.
That is true.
Somebody named Derek Gale also commenting, said, oh my God, amazing, or OMG. I'm not sure to what that was in reference to exactly, but thank you for watching and commenting along. Also, Sonia, regular Laughing Place viewer. Hello, Sonia. Thank you for tuning in. Some more headlines. Oh, this is Disney Parks related. So they've got this Season of the Force going on right now. I teased this earlier in a different episode. Episode 191 coming up about Who's the Bossk 191 is going to be all about Season of the Force. It's going to be about Star Wars Night, which just recently happened. It is still happening at Disneyland. And then the May the 4th celebration. We're going to talk about all that stuff, all the current Star Wars happenings at Disneyland Resort. But the interesting thing that's happening with Season of the Force is it's overlapping with this Pixar Fest celebration that's happening right now.
Ooh.
So the thing that affected was the fireworks show, which is called Fire of the Rising Moons. If you watch it from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you can see the regular Disneyland fireworks as they're going off from the planet Batuu, but in Black Spire Outpost they are playing John Williams music, and it's kind of synced up with the Disneyland fireworks. So there was a different Disneyland fireworks show called Wondrous Journeys that was playing until this week, and the fireworks were synced up. Those fireworks are synced up with John Williams music. And now with the start of Pixar Fest, it's a new, different fireworks show called Together Forever. And that one gets a new set of John Williams music for Fire of the Rising Moon. So if you already saw that show, you can come back and see a different show. I thought that was an interesting way to approach that. Are you guys Disney Parks fans? We haven't really talked about.
So
have you visited the
I'm glad.
Edge at all, or?
We
Yeah.
haven't gone to
Okay.
the West Coast. We haven't gone to Disneyland, but we actually just got back from it feels like just got back, but our wedding anniversary for our 10-year anniversary, we went to
Nice.
Disney World this past Christmas. We went the week before Christmas, and we both got our Savi's lightsabers.
Oh, great.
We that was
Droids.
Tommy's first. Yeah, we got the droids. We had to do everything, and we actually met a cosplayer there that goes and dresses up a lot, and we got to talk to him and his like interaction in Galaxy's Edge. He's amazing.
Okay,
And
great.
I don't know, I feel like Tommy, I went to Disney World once when I was a kid, but I don't really
Yeah.
count it because we went to Galaxy's Edge this time and spent so much time there. But
Yeah.
I loved watching Tommy's reaction going into Galaxy's Edge and him being like an old child, just like, oh my God, there they are. There's Rey. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was just, it was so fun.
It was a really awesome experience. And yeah, we got to spend, I kept saying, it was funny, I kept telling people, oh yeah, we're going to Galaxy's Edge, not like Disney. We were just saying we were going to Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
But we had an absolute blast. You said that there was, with the fireworks show, you said there's a new set of John Williams music. You don't mean like new,
No.
like a different score. Right.
So yeah, they're taking the existing John Williams scores from the Skywalker saga and cutting the tracks to go along with the Disneyland fireworks. And this won't be at the Florida version of Galaxy's Edge because that's at Disney's Hollywood Studios there. And it's just a different park. They don't have the nightly fireworks the way we do have at Disneyland here in Southern California.
Yeah, that was one of the things we ran into a lot, was we're not Disney parks aficionados.
Yeah.
Like, that was my first time ever going to Disney. It was great, loved it, but there was a lot of things that I was like, aren't these characters here? It was like, no, that's at
We were so sad.
Disneyland. I can't remember.
I guess Ahsoka, I believe. Yeah, Ahsoka and Sabine are just over there. They're not at ours.
Yeah, there's this kind of a little bit of a rivalry, I think, between the regulars at Walt Disney World in Florida and the regulars here at Disneyland Resort, because I think the parks here in California are a little bit more of like locals, like frequented by locals a little bit more, and the ones in Florida are frequented more by tourists.
Sure.
So you don't get as much like repeat business throughout the year, so they don't feel the need to put in as many like seasonal offerings and like new things popping up every once in a while. We did get those characters, like you're saying, Ahsoka. We got Hera, Syndulla, and Chopper. We've got these new BDX droids that are wandering around and stuff. So yeah, it does seem like we're a little spoiled with Galaxy's Edge offerings here. But at the same time, Florida did get the Galactic Star Cruiser, may it rest in peace, and we didn't have that here. So it kind of balances out, I guess.
Did you ever get to experience the Galactic Star Cruiser?
I did. Yeah, I got to cover it for work.
Yeah.
I did like 1.5 times because I went to the media preview, which was just like an abbreviated version of it, and then I did a full trip on the house.
That's actually where my Leku are from. They were selling all of the Galactic Star Cruiser costumes.
Yeah, we were down at Walt Disney World in January, and I may have bought a new costume from the Halcyon too.
Oh yes,
that I'm saving for a special occasion. But yes, very excited to get some of that stuff left over, and sad to see that experience gone. Sure. Let's talk about comic books. You guys read Star Wars comics?
A little bit.
We're getting into them now.
Yeah. Okay. I read a decent amount of, I guess it's Legends now, the original Old Republic comics from a long time ago. And
John Jackson Miller. See the writer.
We love. Sorry, I have to, quick aside.
We just met him too.
We met him at our local con, and he was just the sweetest person you could ever imagine. Because we were in costume as Kanan and Hera, and he wrote oh my gosh, A New Dawn. I was blanking on it. It's one of my favorite Star Wars books.
Yes.
Which focuses on those two. He came out from his booth. He was like, I have to take a picture with every Hera and Kanan. He was the first person we saw, and I had my book with me, and I was really afraid to ask. I was like, how much are autographs, or how much are you charging for autographs for a copy of the books? And he was like, it's free. He's like, I got you, and he signed it for me, and so I have a very well loved copy of A New Dawn that was signed by him. I mean, and he's just the absolute sweetest.
So
It was great.
Very cool. Yeah.
Comic wise, I have a stack of them that are in like the backlog that I just have not finished. I want to get caught up on the Dr. Aphra stuff.
Yes.
But I'm so far behind at this point.
We were saying earlier how tough it is to keep up with Star Wars in general, but I feel like the comics,
yes.
it's so overwhelming because I've talked about this many times on the show, but there have been weeks where there were 4, 5, 6, 7 different comics coming out, and I do it professionally. I read and review these comics, and I even, I haven't read this week's comics yet because I'm too busy, but there were 3 issues that came out yesterday as of this recording. The first issue of a new miniseries called Darth Maul, Black, White, and Red. And this is a follow-up to Darth Vader, Black, White, and Red, which was really good. Marvel does this with its superhero titles, and it also has, Marvel has also done an Alien one with the Alien franchise. And the idea behind these is that they're only using the colors black, white, and red. From the title, you can kind of guess that. It's kind of artsy.
So good.
I love that.
And not necessarily canonical, these stories, but very cool way for different Star Wars writers and or comic book writers and artists to come in and do kind of experimental stories with different characters. So I do have it. I bought it today on my way home, but I haven't read it yet. So that's out there. My review will be up, I think, probably at the beginning of next week. Jango Fett, the miniseries by Ethan Sachs, is continuing with number 2. That also came out. And then Star Wars The High Republic Adventures Phase 3 by Daniel Jose Older, number 5 was the other title. Again, I have not checked any of these out yet, haven't had time, but you can find my reviews probably next week on laughingplace.com. Celebration, Star Wars Celebration Japan. I think we're all 3 of us here are hoping to be there. So if you see me there, please say hi.
Yes.
But we
I
got
will try not to run
look.
up to you.
Okay, we got a first look at the merchandise coming out of Star Wars Celebration Japan, and you'll be able to order this when tickets go on sale on May 2nd, which is just next week. Some very cool looking stuff with the logos, especially when they use this the key art with it's kind of a stylized I guess a Japanese style Darth Vader in that sort of like samurai looking art. And there's one piece I'm like, well, this is what I'm gonna buy. I don't think I have room to display it, but eventually maybe when we get a house or something, like it's a nice like fan. It's a big like folding hand fan with that artwork on it.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, this is great. I got to get this. It's going to go on a wall eventually. Do you guys you've been to Celebration in the past at some point, right?
We have
Never
not.
been.
Oh
It's
no.
gonna be our
Yeah.
first.
Okay. Well, when you go, do you plan on buying merch for memorabilia's sake?
Absolutely. So Tommy, okay, well, obviously my shirt's in Japanese, but I love Japan. I've always wanted to go anyway. And so I've been trying to go to Japan for years already. But as soon as we both saw that Star Wars Celebration was out in Japan, Tommy texted me and was like, I guess we're going to Japan this year. And I was like, finally. And so not only is it going to be Star Wars memorabilia, but the art is it's I think that style, it's like a woodblock style called ukiyo-e.
Okay.
Okay. And or sumi-e. And it's like a calligraphy style, like traditional Japanese art. And I already am a huge nut for that kind of stuff. I love Japanese art. So this combines my 2 most favorite things ever. So I've got to start saving up because I need every single thing.
The fan too. I mean, the fan sounds absolutely
gorgeous.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah, you can see pictures of that. We have it on laughingplace.com, or you can go to starwars.com. They have it over there where they first revealed it. And like I said, if you're planning to buy a ticket or a pass to Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025, they go on sale May 2nd, and you can also pre-order your merchandise at the same time. Getting into more merchandise news, Hasbro, our friends over there who make the Star Wars action figures, are releasing 2 new characters in the vintage collection. That's the 3 3/4 inch action figures. You're getting Cal Kestis from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order in his Imperial disguise, and the Mandalorian Judge, another Mandalorian character. This is, everybody laughs like, oh gosh, how many more Mandalorians can we get?
So
But
many.
yeah, it's another, they all look cool. We
Yeah.
all agree that Mandalorian armor looks very cool, and I have bought many of these action figures, so I guess that's why they keep making them. The Mandalorian Judge is the character, if you'll recall, from the Mandalorian. That will be showing up soon, I think, from Hasbro. You can visit hasbropulse.com to see pictures of those, and we have them at laughingplace.com as well. Lastly, some other merchandise roundup for the week. There was, if you visit disneystore.com, you can see kind of what we were talking about earlier. Galaxy's Edge roleplay apparel is available there on disneystore.com. Star Wars slime jars. Again, this is the research I was going to do. I don't even know what that is.
That could be
what
so
that
many
means.
things, and I'm a little concerned, but also excited. I don't know.
The mystery will remain for now, but look it up. And box lunch exclusives are going to be commemorating the 25th anniversary of Star Wars The Phantom Menace and May the 4th Star Wars Day coming up next week. All this stuff is on laughingplace.com. So you just go there, go to the search bar, type in anything that you want to know about. I recommend it. It's a good website for all your Disney news and opinions. Okay. How you guys doing? You hanging in there?
Oh, we're great. I did what I meant. Oh,
Yes.
you go first.
Yeah, you're going to say the exact same thing, I'm pretty sure.
That we used his website when we were going to Disney World. Yeah. Yep. I heard that they also really did the last episode. We listened to the last episode. And
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I did the same exact thing.
Week's guests, they told me the same thing when they went to Galaxy's Edge. They used Laughing Place as a resource, which makes me very, very happy to hear that.
It's a great
because
resource.
I was the frontline guy.
You're the guy.
I was the boots on the ground, as they say. When Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened here at Disneyland. So that's kind of my home turf. I love Galaxy's Edge. So anybody out there who has any questions, I'm always happy to. Oh, why am I saying this? Again, I don't consider myself an expert. My friend Nick is an expert on Galaxy's Edge. I know he's listening and rolling his eyes right now because I keep dropping his name. But he's my Galaxy's Edge go-to resource for all that kind of information. But thank you guys. That's a huge honor to hear that you're using Laughing Place in that way. Let's get into this week's main topic. This is Star Wars The Bad Batch. It's the animated series. It's been running for 3 years. This is the 3rd season. It's the final season. And this week was the penultimate episode. So we've got one more episode after this of the entire series. This is season 3, episode 14. The title is Flash Strike. Before we talk about this episode, what are your histories, both of you, Cassie and Tommy? What are your histories and relationships with this show, The Bad Batch?
I mean, Cass, I feel like you have to go first for this one because you stated that this was your favorite. I'll go quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
We love this show, and we have loved this group for the entire time, their entire history. The one thing I'll say, and then I'll kick it over to you, Cass, is that for our 9th wedding anniversary, we actually got matching Bad Batch tattoos. It's a little hard to see it on the camera.
Oh wow!
The little the Bad Batch symbol. So
that's amazing. That's great.
That's how much we love these characters. We love this show, and it's exactly the type of Star Wars that I gravitate towards because it's so character driven. But anyway, you got to fill in the rest of the blanks, guys.
Okay, well, I will admit that I didn't watch Clone Wars when it first came out because I was
Me neither.
I thought it was a kid show. I'll admit, and I know it's I love kid shows, so I can't even really say that as an excuse because I watch kid shows regardless. But I was I'm not sure if this is my Star Wars thing, right? I have all these other things. I'm not sure if this is mine.
I don't know. So Clone Wars started in 2008. And
Mhm.
I during that period of my life, I just kind of had drifted away from Star Wars a little bit. And I got really back into it when Disney bought Lucasfilm. Like that
Mm.
was my like I in my teenage years, super into Star Wars. And then let's see, 2012, I was 32, and then that was like the second coming of Star Wars for me.
Sure.
But
Yes.
yeah, continue, please. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go
No,
ahead.
I love that because it kind of follows the same exact trajectory. Because
Yeah.
2008 for me, I would have been uh getting ready to go to college. So like I was too busy figuring out that stage of my life to,
Yeah.
and I was a huge Tommy and I, like I said, we were huge Star Wars people in high school. I used to just read Wikipedia every day. Like I
Uh-huh.
just love going through it. So like there was a gap there. And so Clone Wars kind of fell into that gap. And
Yeah.
then when we got out of college, we started getting back into our hobbies and our lives. We watched Clone Wars. Like I said, we watched the entirety of it over COVID. And I just was obsessed with the clones. I was obsessed with their personalities, their individuality. I loved Rex. I was obsessed with Rex. And then once we got the Bad Batch, I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? Like, I need more of this. Like, I was like, this is just so fun. Like, they're just so
Little did you
fun.
know that you were going to get a lot more of that.
Oh my God. And
Mhm.
once that happened, I mean, I was sold. And then, Omega wormed her way into my heart. I told Tommy the first few episodes, I was like, I don't know. Is she going to be annoying? Is she going to be an annoying kid? I don't know. And then I was like, no, she is
She's
everything. She's
so
so
good.
awesome. And I love the emotional beats of Star Wars. The action's always
Yeah.
there, but it's the
Right.
emotional beats. Like I said, I listened
Absolutely.
to the your episode last week with the Bombad podcast, and it really touched my heart. The fellow who has a daughter who like watches
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
we don't have any kids, but our cats are our kids. But like, it's basically like just it's so gripping, and that's why I adore it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really moving that you guys feel so close to the show. And I do too, having, like you said, I wasn't there as the Clone Wars was being released, but the Bad Batch, I've been following it and covering it professionally since the very beginning. So I do feel closer to it in that way.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about season 3. Not counting this week's episode, which we're going to talk about in a moment. What did you both think of the previous 13 episodes leading up to this week's episode?
I mean, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. I
Yes.
I think that, it's I really like that we've gotten a lot of very almost poetic kind of storytelling in this season. I think some of the ways in which there's allegories to, I mean, there's allegories to a lot of stuff. There's a lot of connections back to older Star Wars. There's even connections to, when we were covering, and I'm blanking on the episode title, but the episode, I think it's The Return, when they go back to the planet from the outpost.
Yeah.
There's so much just connection between the two episodes that it's that kind of old adage, right? Of that George Lucas says of Star Wars rhymes. I think it was George Lucas that said that, I assume.
Yes. It's like
Uh
poetry. It rhymes.
it's like poetry, it rhymes. And they've done such a good job of doing that in this season without being super overt about it, if that makes sense. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not super in your face with the kind of rhyming. And that episode was like a perfect way to show that and to do that. And I just think that there has just been such amazing storytelling. The other thing about this show, and I think this season is really pulling it together too, and I think we're going to see more of it when we saw Commander Wolf show back up. I think he's commander at this point. um One of the things that Bad Batch does really well
Yeah.
is it tells more of those clone stories. And so getting to have, Wolf show back up, Echo being a part again in this season, even Rex having a moment in this season. It's just, I think they really hit their stride in season 2, and it's just like continued into season 3. It's great.
I absolutely agree.
Sweet.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better.
Excellent. So let's talk about Flash Strike. This episode was directed by Nate Villanueva, written by Brad Rao, and the story editor, as seems to be always, is Matt Michnovitz. This episode, there's a lot going on. So they finally have gotten to Mount Tantus base, which I think is on the planet Wayland, or it was in Legends. I'm not sure if it is in
It sounds
canon.
right.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. So the Bad Batch have arrived on Wayland, and kind of all hell breaks loose. Basically, they're trying to assault the base and retrieve. Not only Omega are they trying to rescue, but
Mm-hmm.
every clone that's being imprisoned and experimented on there. And they've also, they've got Rampart with them, who's kind of the wild
Oh
card
my
in
god.
this whole situation. What did you guys think of Flash Strike?
I roll my eyes because Tommy, as we're watching these past 2 episodes, Tommy is so annoyed with Rampart, like
So
an aggressive amount while we're watching the episode.
I love
Yeah.
the character. I think the character is great
Yes.
because he makes me so annoyed. Like it's one of those
Mhm.
things where it's like when the villain can really get under your skin as the villain, you know that, the writing, the
Yes.
acting, the animation is all working together really well. And Rampart gets under my skin so much. It's so
Well,
he's
there's a trope in storytelling that a friend of mine calls the uneasy alliance, which
Mhm.
I feel like comes up a lot in Star Wars, but it actually reminds me a little bit of the X-Files. You remember the character Alex Krycek? I'm sure you know Krycek, who I'm talking about. And he was this just complete jerk. They called him Rat
Mhm.
Boy in the fan message boards when I was growing up. But every once in a while, he and Agent Mulder would have to
love
like
that.
team up and do something together, and they never got along. They hated each other so much. But yeah, this is just kind of like a same kind of relationship between those characters. I always enjoy that kind of situation where you have the villain unwillingly going along with the good guys, and he has to help them out reluctantly.
Mhm.
That's definitely what's going on here. Continue. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. Nashir
Nashir
Dalal.
Dalal.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so great. And Cass has been a big fan of Nashir because of, I think, his work in Candela Obscura, you said? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So he's
Yeah.
he's a very popular voice actor, and I watch a lot of like tabletop role play games. Watch a
Okay.
lot of like D&D. Tommy and I are big D&D people, so I watch him on Candela Obscura, which is not Critical Role, but it's like a Critical Role adjacent. It's in the same like production company. It's like a
Gotcha.
Lovecraftian horror, and he's in that, Nashir Dalal, and he plays this very gruff, doesn't look anything like Rampart.
Okay.
Fortunately for him, he looks much better than Rampart. But anyway, he in this episode though, the screams
He-
of him coming off that.
Really good.
I was dying laughing. Like, as much as we hate him, at least we get to see Rampart get like whipped around a bit, you know?
And
Yes.
the boys like reaction, like when they're on the ground and I think it's Crosshair asks, or one of them asks, like, did he, where's Rampart? Did he survive?
Yeah.
They say, unfortunately.
Yes. I think is it Hunter that
Hunter,
says
yeah.
that line?
He says,
Yeah.
unfortunately, he survived. So good.
Well, now that we're on the subject of Rampart, there is a moment in this episode that stood out to me where they're walking through the jungle toward Mount Tantus, and they're talking, or I think it's Rampart and Crosshair having a conversation about Crosshair's kind of
Yeah.
face turn, as we've referenced that this terminology from professional wrestling, where a villain
Ooh.
becomes a hero again, or for the first time. But it seems like Rampart doesn't necessarily buy that Crosshair has completely changed heart and is back on the side of the good guys again. What was your interpretation of that little moment? And do you think that is foreshadowing anything, or do you think Rampart is just way off base?
It scared me.
Yeah, I'm scared. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is I'm scared.
It made me think that it made me have this pause where I was like, wait, does Rampart know something about what they did with
Yeah.
Crosshair and his experimentation that we still don't know? Because I know he's been having he's been having post-traumatic stress, and Omega was
Yes.
helping him deal with that. And I know his hand, he keeps having issues with his hand, and it could just be physical or mentally, it could just be like the remnants of that. But it makes me, he said it in such a sinister way that it made me think there was something else there.
I'm so nervous. I'm so worried that it's going to be. Well, and Cass, I think you had said when we were watching it, you were like, I wonder if it's still if he still has his inhibitor chip and he just thinks it was removed.
Yep.
Like, what if that's the case and they like reactivate it or something?
Oh
And
boy.
they made us love him. So of course they're going to make us freak out again. Like they made us love Tech at the very end of last season.
They can't do that to us again. They can't do that to us again.
I don't know.
It's almost like these guys are good at storytelling.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't know if you follow so the Kiner siblings who are part of doing the score, and then as well as oh my goodness, I'm blanking on her name, Jennifer Corbett.
Yes.
They post on social media a ton, right? And they're big parts of, they know what's coming, and they are just almost kind of torturing fans with like memes and stuff that they're dropping. And we talk about storytelling, like they're telling a story over social media, getting everybody riled up with just some of the memes that they're sharing out.
The other kind of crazy thing is, I'm very fortunate enough to be part of the media covering the show. So I got access to advanced screeners, but the thing is, we've now caught up to where I have seen the last screener that I received and had watched like a month ago was this week's episode. So now I'm going completely blind into the finale. Very excited. One of the big questions going into the series finale next week is how the Zillow Beast is going to factor in. Now, this is what I would call a dangling plot thread from the Clone Wars animated series, because there's this multi-episode arc that introduced this Zillow Beast, which takes its name from Godzilla. I think we can say that without we can say that Dave Filoni definitely took that
100%.
influence from those kind of kaiju monster movies, and the name is a reference to that. So that arc ended with Palpatine, who is then, during the Clone Wars, is he Supreme Chancellor? Yeah. Is that right? Yes, I think so. And he says, we're going to run some cloning experiments on the Zillow Beast, right? We never heard about it again for years, and then it pops back up in Star Wars: The Bad Batch. And now in this episode, Omega's crawling around in the vents like John McClane from Die Hard, and finds where they're keeping the Zillow Beast. And now it certainly seems like that whole thing is going to have a very important role to play in the finale. I don't know. I love that they're using the Bad Batch to pay off things that were set up so many years ago.
Oh yeah.
I just think that's so rewarding for people who, we're not even, you and I, Cassie, you said you didn't watch Clone Wars when it was coming out. Now, did you watch it, Tommy, when it was being released?
No, we were kind of in the same boat. We just started it over COVID, and yep.
Okay, so we're all kind of similar in that we caught up on Clone Wars more recently, but there are people out there, the more hardcore Star Wars fans, who, as dedicated as they were tuning into Clone Wars every week, and they've been waiting to find out what the big deal is with this Zillow Beast for years, and now they're finally going to see the end results of all that. What are your thoughts on the Zillow Beast? How do you think this is going to factor into the end game of the Bad Batch?
Well, I know Cass has a big idea for what's coming.
Is this tying into your theory about her Force usage?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, now's the time.
Okay. So I'm like, nope, I'm gone. Bye.
Just letting the
walk
suspense
out.
go on. Yeah.
See you later. No, I mean, Tommy, you kind of fed this to me a little bit too. We talked about it because it was really both. I feel like both of us kind of talked about it, but this is where she used the Force. I think she's going to use it to talk to the Zillow Beast to get them out. I mean, we just had Asajj show her how
Yeah,
she can connect with this massive
right.
beast. And Tommy made a great connection when we were talking about that episode in our podcast about how I forget what that creature's called,
The
Tommy,
sleeper.
from the Sleeper, which is
Mhm.
a creature that's from Dathomir that the Night Witches
Okay.
would talk. It's like part of their tradition and their connection with the Force. It's like this, you know, swamp monster creature. So it's, it's in the same vein as our Godzilla, our Zillo beast, and the
Yes.
giant I can't remember what it's called in on Pabu, but that giant cuttlefish that Asajj talked to.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's where I'm getting at. I'm like, we're it's very, very similar. And
And that
Badger's
makes me
not
think.
here.
Go ahead.
I would say Badger's not here to help her get
Yes.
out this time, so we need somebody
Right. That's
else.
right. Where is Batcher? Did they leave him on Pabu, I think? Or
I don't know.
they,
I don't know
you
where they
know?
left her.
Yeah, I should have put that as a bullet point here because I was thinking because every week I put the list of voice cast, everybody in the cast and who they're playing. And this week Batcher was not credited. I was like, oh yeah, where is Batcher?
I
We
don't know
haven't
where
seen
they.
him in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm guessing. My hope is that they just left her with oh my gosh,
Fee.
Fee. That's my hope.
Right.
Is that
Yes.
Fee's looking after
Wanda Sykes is looking after Batcher. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, they got the Zillow beat. What you were saying about the Force connection reminds me of all these parallels between Omega and Grogu.
Yes.
Which we've got these two series, The Mandalorian and Bad Batch, that have been released kind of one after the other.
Mhm.
One's animated, one's live action, but they both heavily involve Dave Filoni. And I have to think, he's planning for this kind of thing. We saw Grogu, not in The Mandalorian, but in the Book of Boba Fett. We saw him put the Rancor to sleep.
Rancor.
So
Yeah.
we know he has that ability to kind of speak to the megafauna through the Force. So maybe that will carry over to Omega. I love that theory. I think
Well,
that's likely. Go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think I love what you said about Dave Filoni because Dave Filoni loves the Force application
Yeah.
of communicating with other creatures, right? So, we have that in Rebels, right? With
Yes.
Ezra.
Ezra, and then again in Ahsoka, we have a very similar kind of connection with the Purrgil. And then, like you said, in the Mandalorian. So I would not be surprised if that is the case here because it does seem to be very much his kind of like that seems to be what he really, really enjoys about the Force. If I had to say,
Right. Yeah, that it kind of connects, literally, as Yoda says in The Empire Strikes Back, it connects all living things.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just paying off. In all likelihood, this moment that we'll get in the finale will pay off so many threads that have been sewn throughout the whole fabric of
I
Star
hope
Wars.
so.
Let's talk about the scene between Dr. Emery Carr and Echo after he breaks into Tantus base. This is the other moment that kind of stood out for me in this episode where she stumbles across Echo as he's like hacking in. He's got his one arm that doesn't have a hand. Well, he's stolen a droid's hand now in this episode, and he takes off the droid hand and he has this little scomp link and he goes in the computer and she finds him there and he fumbles an excuse, but she figures out who he is. And instead of turning him in, she's basically like, you can trust me and we're going to help everybody escape together. Right. Is that your read of this? Do we think we can trust Dr. Emery Carr? Do you think Echo can trust Dr. Carr?
I mean, I think so at this point. And
Yeah.
I also, again, the poetry piece, right? Like just how much this connects back. I love that it was Echo that had the conversation with Emery, just given what Echo went through in the Clone Wars, right? He was, I mean, some of the worst like things I think that we've seen, in like Star Wars, especially in Star Wars animation with the experiments that were done to Echo, right? And he references that. He
Mhm.
Yeah.
takes off his helmet and he gives that line of, well, and Emery gives that classic line of, I was just doing my job. To which, he kind of replies, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says something to the effect of like, I know, I've been kind of a part of that before. And I think it's it's important for Echo to be the one to confront Emery again. They're masterful storytellers in this season, because he, what the Techno Union did to him was so awful in the Clone Wars. And, like we said, he has the Scomp Link instead of the hand. I mean, but he basically was a machine. He was made into a machine by the Techno Union, and they just did really awful experiments on him. And again, we're confronted with that, right? He's confronted with that, with the experiments they're doing on the children. We don't even know what's going on in some of those other back to tanks in the back of in the vaults. No idea what's happening there. So I think it's really poignant that it's him who confronts Emery, and I think it was sincere on her part, because he takes his helmet off. She sees kind of the marks that he had when he was hooked up to like the Techno Union stuff. And I think that kind of like clicked for her of, I need to help them kind of thing.
It's so
That's
dark.
my read, at least.
It's such a dark juxtaposition. And I got goosebumps when he took off his helmet and you just have the scientist seeing an experiment that other scientists have done things too. And Tommy made a point. I don't know if this arches out to anything, but while we were getting ready for this episode, he was like, there are only 3 kids in that room that we know of, but their names are like SP 40 or 30. So it makes you wonder, like, how many other kids were there and why aren't they in here? Like,
I'm
really
assuming
scary.
that the Empire returned them safely to their families.
That's got, I think that's what we're led to believe. There's no reason to think otherwise.
Gave them some candy and just,
Dr. Jimmy Simpson, Royce Hemlock, got him back home safe and sound. He was like, I've kept these kids for too long.
It's time to return home.
Yeah.
So gosh.
Where we leave things at the end of Flash Strike is Omega gathers her newfound fellow captive children in the vault is the room, the name of the room that kind of looks like the prison cell from Andor where they're building the big machine. But she says she has an idea now that she's discovered the Zillow Beast that we mentioned before. It's all coming to a head. The Bad Batch are approaching as well. Oh, and also we should mention that Rampart is now captured by the Empire, right? So like I said, that's the wild card. That's where we don't really know.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know how that's going to go. What is he going to end up helping the Empire or trying to help the Empire capture the Bad Batch? Is he going to do the opposite and stick with our heroes? Who knows? What are you guys hoping for? What are you looking forward to? I guess before we say that, is there anything else you want to say about Flash Strike before we move on? And then is there anything else you're hoping or expecting from this series finale?
I mean, I will say, and we've talked about this a lot on our podcast. I just think the score in this season has just been so spectacularly good. And it continues to be. I mean, and it's I think especially in Tantus, it's so special. Like it's unlike any other Star Wars music, I feel like, but it fits and it's also eerie. It just has this really unsettling feel to it. And that just kind of continues on in this episode as well. As far as what to expect, I don't know. I truly don't know at this point. I'm hoping we get an extended episode. I'm hoping that we do. I don't know.
You have to figure people doing the math at home. Seasons 1 and 2 of the Bad Batch had 16 episodes each. Season 3 has 15 episodes. So in all likelihood, we're getting a double length. That would be my guess. Anyway.
That's my thought too. Yeah. I hope so. At least if it's a normal episode length, I don't know how they can do it.
How
can they pull it off? What can they do? I don't know what to expect.
How about you, Cassie? Anything that you're hoping for or expecting?
Oh, I mean, I'm definitely hoping for a longer episode too. It's got to be. But also, and I know you guys talked about this a little bit last episode too.
Yeah.
And David mentioned our love for Asajj and Omega. They're like my two gals, and there has to be more Omega after this. I want to see, and there has to be more Asajj
Right.
after this. So
Right.
even though I'm trying to wrap my head around what's going to happen next week or in this last
Yeah.
episode, but I'm also thinking about the future and what's going to happen after this. I love seeing this like we talked earlier about with Dave and the connection of the Force being, a biological, like a scientific thing, sure, and it's wonderful that it is, but I
Right.
also love that it's like something you can tap into if you try hard enough. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about Omega is she's learning to do it on her own, even though she does have her little childish, like, oh, the rock slippery moment with Asajj and stuff and being an actual kid, because she is a kid still. She is a kid. But she's a great one. So just hoping for even more things somehow in the future, and I don't want anyone else to die.
Yeah, as far as Asajj Ventress goes, I think we may have mentioned this last week, and I've seen theories floating around that we might get a Tales of the Sith or something in the future that might focus on her. So that seems likely. And then, yeah, I'm gonna put money down. I've done it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think that Omega will perish in this upcoming
No.
episode. I think uh, like 99.9% probability that she will survive. The question
Mhm.
is, where will we see her pop up again?
Mhm.
So that's kind of the big dangling question there. And then the last thing I want to ask you guys, and I just kind of want to get your bets on this going into the finale, this Clone X question. Will Clone X have his helmet removed in this finale? If so, do you have thoughts on who might be under that helmet?
He's gonna try to take it off, and it's gonna be stuck. And then he's gonna decide not to take it off, and he's gonna go,
Right.
whatever. Or Wrecker's gonna beat it into his head, and it's not gonna come off.
Yeah.
I'll go first because I know we both have our ideas, and we all know the
Yeah.
tech theory.
Yes.
I was really gunning for it being a just amalgamation of all of them, because
Ooh.
I even had this idea from the last season. I was like, what if there is like because we knew that there were experiments happening. Obviously, we know about like Project Necromancer. They talked
Yes.
about, you know, we know about, the like Palpatine clones, all that kind of stuff is like, mingling around in Tantus. I was like, but they know how powerful the Bad Batch are as a group. As much as the Empire
Mm-hmm.
hates them, they've seen how good they are. And so my thought was like, what if this is like he's got all of the Bad Batch's prowess? Because we've seen him use like a sniper like
Yeah.
Crosshair. We've seen him use
Yes.
a like a Bowie knife like Hunter.
Mm.
Um I'm always like sitting there like not breathing when he's talking because I'm trying to see if I can hear like a specific accent, because I feel like he has this like Crosshair tech combination. So I feel like it's he might look like Tech or Crosshair because he is a skinny dude, but I don't know. I think he's kind of going to be a weird, horrific combination of all of them.
I had not heard that theory before, and I like it a lot. Anything else that either of you would like to say about the Bad Batch before we start wrapping up here?
Just putting it out there for CX2.
Okay.
I hope it's not. I don't think I want it to be tech at this point. I think, Cass, you had this idea initially that it might also be a Crosshair clone, right?
Mhm.
And it's kind of almost like a red herring is not the right term, but like everybody thinking it's tech is kind of a red herring. And then I had this weird thought. I was like, well, what if it's like a clone of Crosshair, and we don't know which Crosshair is the real Crosshair at one point. Like they do that, like, I'm the real
Yes.
Crosshair,
Yes.
kind of
I
trip.
thought we were
So
going to get that in the episode with the waterfall fight. I
yeah,
thought they
that
were
would've been
both going to
perfect.
fall down the waterfall and they're going to find their bodies, and like Batcher has to sniff out the real Crosshair. Like,
But I think the most likely thing is that it's going to end up not being a thing at the end. I think it's going to just be just a super special clone that they made, and
it's the Mephisto of Star Wars, the bad batch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those who watch WandaVision. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So that's those are our thoughts going into the finale. Very excited, very curious to see what they've cooked up, and we will be talking all about that in next week's episode of Who's the Boss. I'm sure you guys will be talking about that on your own show as
Oh, yeah.
well. Let's get into the final segment here on Who's the Boss. It's called First Steps into a Larger World. This is where we take a breath and take a step outside of the Star Wars galaxy and talk about other media that we've been consuming or enjoying. I want to give an example this week of Conan O'Brien Must Go. It's a comedy series on HBO.
Ooh.
I've been a Conan O'Brien fan for 30 plus years. Well, more,
Yeah.
actually a little bit more than that, because he was a writer on Saturday Night Live. He wrote for The Simpsons, some of my favorite episodes. Then he took over for David Letterman in 1993, and I've been a huge fan of his since then. And he has since within the last few years, he stopped doing his talk show, and he's doing this new show now that is focused on his like travel log adventures, going to different countries, interacting with people there. Very, very funny. This is on HBO Max, which is now just called Max. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but really, really enjoying it so far and looking forward to seeing more. That's my pick for this week. Let's ask our guests what they've been consuming and or enjoying. Cassie, anything come to your mind?
Yes. We've been watching a lot of again, we love Dropout, which is a streaming service that we enjoy a lot.
Okay.
And it has tons of fun comedy sketch like game shows and improv shows. There's one called VIP, which is amazing, where they get an improv artist, they put them in like insanely intricate makeup where they cannot really distinguish themselves from themselves, and then they make them look in the mirror, and from seeing themselves for the very first time in makeup, they have no idea who they are. They have to come up with an improv character and then be interviewed, and
It's
is
great.
hilarious. It is
That's a
so
really
funny.
interesting idea. Yeah, I would like to check that out.
Yeah, it actually just won a Webby for I think best comedy series or something like that. So
Yes.
it is phenomenal. It is really good.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I have to put that on my list. How about you, Tommy?
Yeah, I was gonna mention Dropout as well, but I'll pivot. We've also been consuming X-Men 97.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of X-Men. My dad was a huge X-Men fan growing up, and so I kind of got that love for X-Men from him. Went through a phase where I was reading a ton of the comics. It's actually got me back into reading some of the X-Men comics that I've missed because I put them down. And 97 is just it is gut-wrenchingly good. Like, it is so beyond what I could have expected from this show.
I will say that I've been on an X-Men kick myself lately as well because of X-Men 97. First of all, when they announced this show that it was going to be kind of continuing the legacy of the 90s X-Men cartoon, I planned to go and watch that whole series, and I got like a season in and I got distracted by other stuff. And now I'm going back and like halfway through season 2. So I'm watching that. I'm reading the old comics. I bought the Epic collection of Marvel comics, starting with the Chris Claremont era, where they bring in the Colossus and Nightcrawler, all those guys. And then I'm also enjoying X-Men 97 quite a bit. All that stuff is great. Really, I've been kind of a little bit obsessed with X-Men the last how long has it been since X-Men 97 starts? Like 6 weeks or 7 weeks or something.
Has it? Man, it feels like it just started.
Yeah,
it really
I'll be
does.
honest. It really feels like that.
Like a week ago.
Yeah, same here. It's been a joy.
Yeah, absolutely digging that. All right, that is going to bring us to the end of this week's episode of Who's the Boss. Big thank you to my guests this week from the Distant Echoes Star Wars podcast. It's Cassie and Tommy. Thank you both so much for taking out more than an hour of your week to come and chat with me about Star Wars.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
And feel better.
Yes.
Oh yeah, this right now. I'm like breathing a sigh of relief because this moment, as this podcast ends, this is the moment I was waiting for. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel where I can rest. It is my wife's birthday today, but other than that, I can like take a little bit of a breather. But I want to ask you guys, where can people find you on the internet if you want to send them to your podcast or social media or wherever you want people to go to find you?
Mhm.
Absolutely. You can find us. We're at Distant Echoes SW on Twitter and Instagram. We are also a part of the Glitterjaw Podcast Collective, which is a podcast collective of queer media podcast creators. Please be sure to come check out all the other shows and check us out as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Please do that. Next week on Who's the Bossk, it's the Bad Batch series finale. Me and Jeremiah Good from laughingplace.com will be talking all about that. So please come back right here and either watch us on the live stream or listen to the audio version, which will go up probably the following day. And very much looking forward to that conversation and to the episode itself. Of course, as always, please visit laughingplace.com for all your Disney news and opinions. My name is Mike Celestino. I am on Instagram at Who's the Bossk Pod. Thank you so much out there for listening. This has been a blast. See you next time. Thanks again. Bye.